What was that?
I don't know. It's right there. Be calm, brothers.
The sun was shining brightly over the city, birds were singing from the trees, and the three bear brothers were enjoying what seemed like the perfect morning. But none of them knew that before the day was over, one small moment would test their friendship in a way they had never experienced before. Grizz, Panda, and Ice Bear had always believed that being together meant they could face anything. Yet sometimes, the strongest friendships are not tested by huge adventures or dangerous situations. Sometimes, they are tested by something much smaller, a lonely heart, a misunderstood friend, or a moment when someone simply needs another person to stay. If you believe that kindness can change someone's life and that true friendship deserves a second chance, please like this video, share it with someone you care about, leave a comment, and subscribe to English Cartoon Stories. Your support helps us bring more emotional and inspiring stories to you. It was a beautiful daytime morning when Grizz woke up with an enormous smile on his face. He had decided that the brothers needed a special friendship day. No phones, no arguments, no worrying about the future, just the three of them spending time together. Panda was sitting near the window, carefully drawing in his sketchbook, while Ice Bear was preparing breakfast with his usual calm concentration. Grizz proudly announced his plan and immediately began imagining all the fun they could have. Panda smiled, but his attention remained on his drawing. Ice Bear simply nodded and continued cooking. Grizz did not notice that something seemed different about Panda that morning. After breakfast, the three brothers packed a small basket and headed toward a peaceful park on the edge of the city. The sunlight filtered through the green leaves, creating golden patterns across the walking path. Children were playing, families were having picnics, and the gentle sound of a nearby fountain filled the air. Grizz ran ahead excitedly, pretending that he was leading an important expedition, while Ice Bear followed at a steady pace. Panda walked behind them, unusually quiet. Every few steps, he looked down at his phone, then quickly placed it back into his pocket. Grizz eventually noticed and slowed down. Panda tried to smile, but the smile disappeared almost immediately. He had received a message earlier that morning from someone he considered a close friend. The message was short and painful. His friend had said that spending time with Panda had become difficult because Panda was always worried about small things and needed too much attention. Those words had stayed inside Panda's mind all morning. He had started wondering whether he was really a good friend to anyone. Instead of telling his brothers, he decided to hide his sadness behind silence. At the park, Grizz organized a series of silly games. He challenged Ice Bear to a race, tried balancing on a fallen tree, and even attempted to organize a three-bear picnic contest. Ice Bear quietly won almost everything without trying very hard. Grizz laughed loudly, pretending not to be disappointed. Panda smiled at their antics, but his heart was somewhere else. When Grizz offered him a chance to join a game, Panda gently refused and walked toward the fountain. Panda sat alone on a bench beneath a large tree. The sunlight touched his face, but he barely noticed it. He watched other friends laughing together and wondered why friendship seemed so easy for everyone else. He began thinking about every time he had been nervous, every time he had complained, every time he had needed reassurance. Maybe his friend had been right. Maybe he was simply too difficult to be around. Behind him, Grizz was searching everywhere. He had suddenly realized that Panda was missing. His excitement disappeared, replaced by concern. Ice Bear noticed the change immediately and followed him through the park. They finally found Panda sitting alone. Grizz approached him carefully, expecting Panda to make a joke or complain about something. Instead, Panda remained silent. Grizz sat beside him without asking questions. Ice Bear sat on the other side. For several moments, none of them spoke. The city continued moving around them, but beneath that tree, everything felt quiet. Panda eventually looked at his brothers and admitted that he felt like he was becoming a bad friend. He explained what had happened that morning and confessed that he had been afraid to tell them because he did not want them to think he was weak. Grizz listened carefully. For once, he did not interrupt with a joke. He did not try to immediately solve the problem. He simply listened. Ice Bear quietly placed a small snack beside Panda and stayed close. Panda looked at them with surprise. He had expected advice, criticism, or perhaps even frustration. Instead, his brothers had given him something much more important, the feeling that he did not have to hide his sadness from them. The three bears continued walking through the park together. But the Friendship Day had changed. It was no longer about games or funny adventures. It had become about understanding one another. Grizz began noticing little things he had ignored before. He realized that Panda sometimes became quiet when he felt insecure. Ice Bear realized that Panda often needed someone nearby even when he said he wanted to be alone. Panda realized that Grizz's endless energy was not always about being silly. Sometimes Grizz acted cheerful because he was afraid that if everyone became serious, someone might notice how much he cared. Later that afternoon, the brothers discovered a small community garden where an elderly gardener named Marlowe was struggling to repair a damaged wooden fence. A strong wind from the previous night had knocked several sections down. The garden was beautiful, filled with flowers, vegetables, and tiny paths covered in sunlight. Marlowe looked exhausted as he tried to lift one of the broken boards. Grizz immediately wanted to help. Panda hesitated, but then stepped forward. Ice Bear began gathering the tools. Together, the three brothers started repairing the fence. It was not easy. The wood was heavy, the nails were difficult to remove, and Grizz accidentally knocked over a bucket of water. But instead of getting angry, Panda laughed for the first time that day. Grizz laughed too, and even Ice Bear showed a small smile. As they worked, Marlowe told them that the garden had once belonged to his wife, who had passed away several years earlier. He had continued taking care of it because every flower reminded him of her. Recently, he had considered giving up because maintaining the garden alone had become too difficult. The bears looked around and suddenly understood why the place felt so special. They worked until the fence stood strong again. When the final board was secured, sunlight began turning golden across the garden. Marlowe looked at the repaired fence with tears in his eyes. He thanked the brothers, but Panda quietly told him that they had only helped because the garden mattered to him. Marlowe smiled and explained something Panda would remember for a long time. He said that friendship was not about finding people who never made mistakes. It was about finding people who were willing to stay when things became difficult. A true friend might become tired, confused, or imperfect, but kindness gave friendship the chance to heal. Those words touched Panda deeply. On the way home, the three brothers walked beneath the warm evening sky. Panda finally understood that his friendship did not have to be perfect to be real. He did not need to hide his worries or pretend that everything was fine. Grizz did not need to be cheerful every second. Ice Bear did not need to express every feeling with words. They were different, but somehow those differences were exactly what made them a family. As they reached the forest, Panda stopped and looked at his brothers. He felt grateful that they had followed him to the fountain instead of leaving him alone. Grizz gave him a huge hug, and Ice Bear quietly joined. For a moment, the three brothers stood together beneath the fading sunlight. The next morning, Panda received another message from his old friend. This time, the message was different. His friend admitted that the previous words had been too harsh and explained that they had been dealing with their own problems. Panda could have ignored the message. He could have decided that the friendship was no longer worth saving. But he remembered Marlowe's words. A second chance did not mean forgetting what had happened. It meant choosing kindness when anger would have been easier. Panda replied with honesty and forgiveness. He did not know whether everything would return to the way it had been before, but he knew he had done what felt right. He had learned that sometimes friendship meant giving someone another chance, while also learning how to protect your own heart. That afternoon, Grizz, Panda, and Ice Bear returned to their cave. Grizz immediately announced another friendship adventure, this time involving homemade snacks and a ridiculous treasure hunt. Panda laughed. Ice Bear quietly began preparing the food. Their home once again filled with the sounds of laughter, footsteps, and playful chaos. But something had changed inside all three brothers. They understood that the greatest adventures were not always found in mysterious forests, exciting competitions, or impossible challenges. Sometimes the greatest adventure was learning how to understand the people you loved. Years from now, Panda might forget exactly what games they played that day. He might forget what food they ate or how many times Grizz made everyone laugh. But he would never forget sitting beneath that tree with his brothers, realizing that he did not have to be perfect to be loved. And perhaps that was the most beautiful friendship moment of all. Because true friendship is not about always being happy together. It is about staying when someone is sad. It is about listening when someone cannot find the right words. It is about forgiving when mistakes happen. And most importantly, it is about reminding someone that they are never alone. The three bears disappeared into the warm evening light, walking together toward home. Grizz was laughing, Panda was smiling, and Ice Bear carried the picnic basket as usual. They were still different. They would still argue. They would still make mistakes. But they knew one thing for certain: no matter how difficult life became, they would always have each other. If this story touched your heart and reminded you of someone special, please like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to English Cartoon Stories for more beautiful and emotional cartoon stories. Your support means more than you know. And before the story ends, please comment one word: friendship, if you believe that a true friend is someone who stays beside you during your hardest moments. Sometimes, we spend our lives searching for someone who will understand us perfectly. But perhaps we do not need perfection. Perhaps all we need is someone who sits beside us when we are hurting, someone who listens without judging, and someone who quietly says through their actions, "You are not alone." That day, Panda learned that friendship was not about never falling apart. It was about finding the courage to come back together. And beneath the golden sky, the three bear brothers continued walking home, together, stronger, and grateful for the simple gift that mattered most.